Games Workshop have finally admitted defeat and decided to make Warhammer 40k an actual playable product. Okay, so that's a little bit of an exaggeration. Warhammer 40k is still a little bit cumbersome and awkward and very, very expensive to play. But Games Workshop have created and released a new small-scale version of the game called Boarding Patrol. I hope that doesn't become a problem throughout this video. And this appears to be designed as a fun, smaller entry point for new players to get in to wargaming. Yay! Hurrah! Finally! This is what I have always wanted and what I have constantly asked for so long. An accessible version of Warhammer 40k that both Warhammer lore fans and just anybody who is generally interested in wargaming can get into. This is something that Warhammer has been missing, especially since Kill Team was changed from BAP Warhammer to that weird uncle who asks you to sit on his knee. It's got different mechanics. It's a little bit weird, is my point. Don't read into that any further. Unfortunately though, I think Boarding Patrol might be just the most disappointing product the Games Workshop have ever released. And I really truly mean that. So, firstly, this is a totally new game mode, one where Games Workshop seem to have adopted the truth that I have been proselytizing for years now. No, not that Steve Buscemi is our Lord and Savior, but that smaller scale war games are the best introductory experience to wargaming. I love them! I also have an addiction to skirmish starter sets, sue me. I mean, really, when you think about it though, small-scale wargames hit the 4 vital criteria as created by me, Pit and Pending, in order to be actually accessible by Tiny Tim. I call these my Tiny Tim wargame necessities, and they are: number 1, don't be a huge financial investment. Number 2, have minimal setup and player requirements. Number 3, be easy to play, but hard to master. And number 4, relatively balanced so that new players won't feel bad about playing wrong. These are pretty simple criteria, but they have held me well when I've introduced games to new people. And I think that these Tiny Tim wargame necessities are reasonable requests of a supposed new player-friendly game, right? And in theory, Boarding Patrol fits all of these criteria by design. At least the intent from the designers seems to be to hit these criteria anyway. Thematically, Boarding Patrol depicts battles taking place in spaceships, which means that small forces of around 500 points with no tanks or vehicles. And even more importantly, some of the biggest complaints from the casual player base are dealt with in this game mode. Most stratagems are banned. Celebration! And I think that stratagems have a place in Warhammer 40k, but you've got to admit, this is great for new people, because it means there's less extraneous, non-table stuff for them to worry about when playing Boarding Patrol. Command point management is also made a lot easier in this mode as well, and force organization is super simple. These are all the main hurdles that new players have with playing Warhammer 40k for the first time. And it's actually great to see Games Workshop actually address them. It's like they listened to feedback and implemented it. I feel like I'm living in Mirrorland over here. We're through the looking glass here, people. So everything that I have seen about the game design of Boarding Patrol seems to scream to me that it is designed to get new wargamers and Warhammer lore fans into the Warhammer 40k tabletop game. As I said, this is awesome. Unfortunately though, in their quest to create an easy-to-play, accessible entrance point to Warhammer, Games Workshop have accidentally invented the least accessible version of Warhammer ever made, completely undermining the entire point of the game mode. And I really hate to say that, because the game mode should, in theory, be really easy to play for new folk. Just like eating fresh, healthy, and delicious food should also be easy. Okay, so I kinda love takeaways, I'm not gonna lie. Kebabs, Chinese, pizza, this is my holy trinity. But with the whole cost of living thing, they've been exploding in price. And I've also started to notice that I run out of breath when sitting down. That's not an exaggeration. Now, big problem. I hate cooking. I always have, and I suck at it. So that's why I'm so pleased that HelloFresh are sponsoring today's video. HelloFresh are an easy way to save money and eat well. They deliver restaurant quality meals straight to your kitchen. With over 35 weekly recipes, there's tons of options to choose from. You can pick calorie smart recipes or even customize select meals by swapping sides or adding protein. Come on, how are you gonna get swole without your protein? It'll even help you get your five portions of fruit and vegetable a day at top quality. Ingredients travel from the farm to your home in less than 7 days, so you know they're fresh. And because I do hate cooking, that means I have a pretty poor relationship with food. I'm just not a big fan. But HelloFresh has meant that I don't need to worry about what meals I'm going to cook that week. It's all sorted for me, and I don't have to stress about it at all. Plus, bonus, I don't have to leave my house and go into the treacherous, fierce, mild Irish weather and can instead just paint miniatures in the dark all day, every day. You can even add snacks, desserts, and sides at the HelloFresh Market, and they arrive with your weekly order alongside the meal, so you really have no excuse to leave your home. No excuse at all. So go to HelloFresh.com and use the code DiscoursMiniatures21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping. Use that code DiscoursMiniatures21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping on HelloFresh.com. Thanks for sponsoring today's video, HelloFresh. Wow, what an awesome intro product to eating food. I sure hope that Border Patrol is able to meet the Tiny Tim wargame necessities as well. So let's see. Number 1 on our list was don't be a huge financial investment. And unfortunately, this game mode fails at the very first hurdle. There is a huge upfront financial investment required to play this game mode. At its core, it needs a $200 terrain set just to get started. And the scenarios for the game that can be played are super prescriptive and require that $200 set. There's no getting around it. This is a maze system, and it'll be extremely hard to replicate using whatever you've got around in the house, like boxes of Kleenex. I'm sorry, I've been in wargamers' houses, okay? I know what's up. And it's not like the game gives rules for building your own scenarios with some MDF terrain either. The rules of Border Patrol are very specific in how the terrain is laid out. In fact, the terrain is so involved that it'll likely take way longer to set up a Border Patrol game than a regular game of Warhammer 40k, which to me is a massive failing of this game mode. So I guess we can also knock off number 2 on Tiny Tim's wargaming necessities of minimal setup. Oh, and on top of all of that, the game mode also requires a full new book, the Ark of Omens book, in order to play. And that, by the way, is in addition to the regular core Warhammer 40k rulebook and the faction codex that you use as well. This is an insane amount of paper that needs to be bought for an accessible entrance point to Warhammer, especially considering that this is all before you've bought even a single model. But not only that, the Ark of Omens rules will eventually be spread across a series of 4 different books. Why? Why do this instead of making the product a single easy entrance point? Why not a single online PDF? Why not a new players buy this box? I mean, I get that they want to sell books for money. I understand that. But splitting the content like this will make the game a nightmare to play, especially for new players. The first book is out as I record this, but Reddit will be soon enough filled with 1,000 noobs asking which Ark of Omens book do they get? Did they get the right one? They have 2, but they couldn't find book number 3, and they couldn't find 4, and they have the rules in 1. Is that okay? We all know how well Games Workshop keep their side products in stock. That is to say, not very. And this kills criteria number 3 of the Tiny Tim wargame necessities. This game mode is going to be so awkward for new players to play. Not easy at all. What is the point in building a game mode that is seemingly designed to be accessible and yet making that game mode as awkward and inaccessible to buy into as possible? And that's before new players are even asked to buy the required 500-point army to play. A feat which will be incredibly expensive thanks to Games Workshop's pricing policies. And now, to be fair to Games Workshop here, they have released 2 boarding patrol bundles. And okay, that's good. That makes it easy to buy what you need as a new player, especially considering that they've released Space Marine 1 and Space Marine 1 2 with spikes. Sorry, Chaos players, I calls it like I sees it. But I guess Games Workshop were expecting no new Eldar players for a while then. But taking those on top of all the aforementioned paper and terrain puts the price to buy into this game mode in the hundreds. We're talking about the price of a new games console here. So to me, that's pretty much the death nail of criteria 1, 2, and 3 of our Tiny Tim Wargame necessities. Unfortunately, it's a huge financial investment, has a ton of setup, and will not be easy to play. But hey, at least the game should be relatively balanced at least, right? This is a new game mode. Games Workshop have had the last 2 years of the 9th edition meta to help them form a small, tight, balanced rule set. No, if you're not sure. But this goes further. You see, Games Workshop have been pretty explicit in that balancing isn't a concern for this mode. In fact, the FAQs and balance patches to the codices that have been gracefully sprinkled into the game over the last few years in an attempt to make the game a somewhat fair experience are to be totally ignored in this mode. Explicitly. Just run the game straight from the codex. And I am so mixed on this that I could genuinely pass as a Long Island iced tea right now. On the one hand, great. Online FAQs, patch notes, they are mostly indecipherable and impenetrable to new players. I think that the hardcore community forget just how few people play with the balance updates and just play straight from the codex instead. So the fact that Border Patrol actively encourages players to just play straight from the codex is kinda good, actually, for new players, because that will be their normal impulse. Plus, they might be a little bit annoyed to discover the $50 book they bought for their army rules is obsolete, lol. Often before release. But that said, those balance updates and FAQs were released for a reason. The codices were imbalanced at release. Often, really badly so. And I say that as an owner of the 9th edition Dark Eldar Codex. Sorry, Drew Carey. And an imbalanced game can be fun when entered into with the right mindset. But I guarantee if new players play this game mode and run into major obvious balance issues or janky gameplay, it will alienate them, it will annoy them, it will put them off the game, especially considering how much money a potential player will need to have invested to experience this game. Stroll through any Games Workshop focused subreddit and you'll frequently see posts from new players lamenting the fact that the game seems to be an uphill struggle in getting to resemble anything other than an expensive self-flagellation exercise. Warhammer 40k takes the idea of first turn advantage and turns that into games where one player can find themselves unable to even interact with the table. I mean, ultimately, Warhammer 40k isn't very well balanced, is my point. And that can be an incredibly unfun experience, especially if you're not expecting it. And to be frank, most new players don't expect that. They're used to board games, video games, games that are designed to be relatively fun, fair, and playable. The FAQs, the updates to Warhammer, they are an attempt by the Games Workshop studio design team to tweak the games to be fair. They should, in theory, make for a more even match. And regardless of whether you think Warhammer should be all about the "I'm here for the exciting tale of how my army just has objectively worse rules than yours" narrative players, or a tighter than a jar of pickles sealed by Superman stuck inside a kangaroo pouch so balanced that I fall upwards competitive player, giving players an equal chance to win is especially important for when the game is for noobs. You want to excite and delight new players by giving them the feeling of playing tactically. You want new players to feel like there's a lot of different tactical opportunities. Put them in positions where they get to do strategy, make decisions so that even if they lose a match, they feel like they could have done things differently. And therefore, they will want to play more games to master the system. Intro products should provide a sexy little taster. They should get players excited to play more games. They're like statistics or bikinis. What they reveal is interesting, but what they hide is vital. And look, here's the thing. I've played a lot of war games. Discovering that your team sucks and you chose wrong and spent all this money and time and effort building and painting the wrong side is one of the most demoralizing moments in a wargamer's career, and I have watched that revelation kill the enthusiasm of more wargamers than the wargamer enthusiasm eating Space Noodle. So that leaves us with the question: was it a good idea to just cast off the FAQs and say screw it, just play with the codices as they released? Well, after all that, yes. Mostly because new players wouldn't check out FAQs anyway, so in practice, it would usually end up like this. No matter what Games Workshop said. But we should file this away as just another damning testament against the Games Workshop model of releasing overpowered, wacko codices on release and then relying on patch notes to give them some semblance of balance once the wave of abused competitive players have spent all their money on the latest flavor of the month. Yeah, who knew that the business practices and monetization model of games actually impacted the gameplay? Wow, design impacted by business decisions. I've never seen it happen before. Hey, by the way, why do we still use codices? Sorry, we're getting into another video there. But in any case, the codex design style means that we must cross off the final criteria of Tiny Tim's War Games. Fare thee well criteria for relatively balanced so that new players won't feel bad about picking wrong is out of here. And it sucks. This sucks. I don't like this. I want to look forward to this game mode. Games Workshop used to do a lot of campaign books giving ideas for different game styles. Stuff like City Fight, and I loved them back in the day. I actually do enjoy remixes like this, products that create different experiences. But this one is a stinker in my opinion. People generally love smaller game modes. Look at Midwinter Mini's Combat Patrol Battle Reports. They're super popular. But I don't think that Border Patrol will appeal to many new people at all, sadly. How could it? The base core terrain required to play this game mode costs twice as much as the Carnivale starter set that comes with everything needed to play the entire game. It's just Fantasyland to expect many people who haven't already sunk a ton of money into Warhammer to be able to afford to play this game mode. And look, there will be a small group of people that like this game mode. Mostly the same old usual crowd of hardcore players that have accepted Games Workshop into their hearts and they just want to play Warhammer in a different way. Sure, that's fine. I'm happy that there are people out there who will actually enjoy this product. But we cannot forget that this sucks as an intro product for new people. And the only ones who'll be able to put up with this, who'll be able to hold their nose and get past all of this stuff, these are just die-hard players who make up a small proportion of any player base. The central philosophy of Games Workshop wins out once again with this new game mode. Maximize revenue from existing players, even when they're building products that would be so much more useful as an attractive entrance point to Warhammer entirely for casuals. So is it any wonder then that Games Workshop think that wargaming is a tiny niche hobby when this is their idea of an accessible, new player-friendly product? Tiny Tim, it's time for you to go home to the orphanage. He's an orphan, by the way. Did I mention that? Yeah, now I bet you feel really bad he couldn't afford the terrain box, don't ya? Tiny Tim's what? Dead? Could have been a wargamer. Instead, he's dead. I just want something to celebrate, you know? I just want it to be good. Is that too much to ask? I'm sick of this. I really am. I want wargaming to be more popular. I want more people to get into the game. But they can't. Because they can't afford this. Who could? Who could afford that? I can't afford this. I have a wargame channel. I can't afford the accessible product. And well done to all those who can. You're the only ones. That is why you cannot find anybody at your local game store. It's why there's like 12 people who play the game. And it sucks. I just want more people to experience the joy of wargaming. And Warhammer 40k, love it or not, is one of the most accessible products that people play because they know about it. They see it on their TV. They see it in movies. Eventually, with Mr. Cavill's face. A smaller game mode like this would be perfect as an opportunity to onboard new players. This is a massive missed opportunity from Games Workshop. I don't know. Have I missed the entire point here? Was this just designed to remonetize existing players? Probably, now that I mention it. Let me know in the comments below. And look, Games Workshop aren't the only company that have been screwing up in the wargaming space lately, so check out this video here, the one I never wanted to make. And a huge thanks to patrons, especially CryptoKev and Sonic Bread. And a reminder that this month, patrons get 40% off the entire Blue Sky Mini store on My Mini Factory this month, as well as ad-free videos and a bonus video. So check it out at patreon.com/discoursminiatures. And then, I'll catch you there. Bye-bye!